Hello everyone, Luke here, and yes, we are back. We are talking about not only the Promised Neverland this week, but also Dr. Stone. Yes, we've gone through the last 3 episodes, episode 7, episode 8, and episode 9. And yeah, those episodes, they will be covered today in this video, and then after that, I'll be moving straight on to talking about the Promised Neverland chapter 148. Well, can you believe that many chapters has gone by since the Promised Land? It almost feels like yesterday since the series came out, and obviously a lot has changed in that time, not just with the series but also with me, with the passage of time. That's also changed, and also big changes in Dr. Stone as well. They've changed also, in my opinion, for the better. Dr. Stone is one of those series where I feel I'm inclined to agree that the first part, the first prologue part with Tsukasa, Senku, Yusuriya, and Taiju, that part is not as interesting or as fascinating as the parts that we are right now. Like right now in the series, we're up to volume 3 of the manga. So that's the volume that we're going to be covering today. Now with this, I feel like we're going to get like a little bit into more of the Stone War arc, because we've even though we're on episode 9, we've only got like a couple other. We've only got like volumes 4 and 5 before we actually get to Stone War. So I feel like we're going to move into a little bit of Stone War. I'm hesitant to say how much of Stone War we're actually going to get. Maybe just a little bit of snippet before we hopefully get season 2, because in my opinion, and also I've been speaking to David on the Control Chaos Discord, and he agrees that this has actually been the best adaptation of the 3 mangas with Promised Neverland, We Never Learn, and Dr. Stone. He also agrees with me on that front. So big shout out to Control Chaos guys. They're really awesome. I love talking to them. I love interacting with them and actually being a part of their community as well. They've made me feel very welcome, and it made me feel very appreciated. Every one of them, not just David, Red, and a few of the other guys. So big shout out to them guys. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presence and just being around you guys. That just makes me feel very welcomed. But anyway guys, that's enough of me just rambling and just praising people. Let's just get right into talking about what's the difference between the manga and the anime of Dr. Stone episode 7 to episode 9. Also, another thing that I actually wanted to talk about, or wanted to discuss with guys, is it goes back to volume 2, where that started episode 4, so that had episodes 4, 5, and 6. Volume 2, which was the last volume I did, and it's this part right here. All right, you see Yusuriya, right? You see Yusuriya right here. Okay, so you can clearly see that on her left arm, there's no mark, and this is actually rectified in the actual anime itself, in the fact that you actually see the mark on her left side, and I was really confused about that in the anime itself, and I was thinking like, oh, maybe it's on her right shoulder. But no, it's actually on her left shoulder, and they actually showcase a part, if I can actually get to it. Sorry about this, guys. Yeah, right here on her left shoulder, you can clearly see. Don't know if you can. Yeah, you can clearly see right there. There is the mark. That's clearly on her left shoulder. So maybe when they actually did draw the manga, they actually forgot to include it. Like, okay, it's on her left shoulder. So it was nice to see that the anime actually stayed consistent with that, like where the marks actually are. Although the anime does make one mistake, and we'll get into that when we get into it. Alright, so the first major point I want to bring up is when after Senku saves Kukaku, he doesn't mention anything about dying twice the same day, and that's because the actual conversation between Senku and Kukaku is that you see them actually walking here, whereas in the anime itself they're actually sitting by the campfire, which honestly I'm not too bothered about that change, because it just makes more sense for them to actually discuss this as they're relaxing and as they're like taking a breather. It does make more sense for Kokaku to actually be up like, okay, so you're fighting the long-haired guy, which is a reference to Tsukasa. And also I think they just didn't want to include Tsukasa right there, like that bit, like that cartoony drawing of Tsukasa, because I feel like they wanted to just keep with the notion of how threatening Tsukasa is a villain, and to have like those chibi images of Tsukasa. I feel like that would have, in their eyes, taken away from the perspective threat that Tsukasa actually poses. So I feel like that's one of the reasons why they actually didn't include that. Now also it cuts out another part here where it says, yeah, right here where it says where Kokaku goes, science, you mean sorcery, again showing just like the primitive nature of these people. Like they have no concept of like modern technology like science, chemistry, biology, or all of that, and they would just like refer to it as how it was pretty much referred to back in like olden times, where it was just like, oh, this is sorcery, this is something from the heavens, this is magic, this is witchcraft, which actually that actually gets me thinking, like the whole witchcraft thing when they were like burning stakes at the witches in like 1800s or whenever it was, whenever century it was it like sorcery and they just didn't, not sorcery, was it actually science and they just didn't understand the concept? So they were like, they're witches, they're creating magic, burn it at the stake. Is that the reason why they were like the confused witchcraft, they confused science for witchcraft and sorcery? That if that's the case, that's really fascinating, and I really find that interesting. And the fact that if that's a sort of if this is a sort of reference to that concept, that's really interesting and really fascinating to me. And I'm really glad that if that was the case, that was actually included in the manga. Again, it would have been interesting to see that in the anime, but I suppose it. Actually, I don't know the reason why it was not included in the anime. It was just one simple line that they could have included. Now, I'm not bashing the anime. I mean, little things have to be cut out. And again, this is not really a necessarily important point, like removing the reveal of Isabella's number in episode 2 of The Promised Neverland in favour of finishing with Ray, or removing like the entire chapter 5 of Promised Neverland to just get to Crone faster, or Crona. Yeah, that's something else. I know I'm going off on a tangent, but then Dr. Stone goes off on tangents as well. But yeah, in the dub of The Promised Neverland, they actually call Sister Crona, and I actually sent a tweet to the voice actress for Crone to ask, hey, why did they change to Crona when it was supposed to be Crone? And I never got a response back to that. But again, it was probably they probably just thought I was just some random fanboy, and they probably didn't bother to even answer that question. But it would be interesting to find out exactly why they changed it. I'm not bashing them or anything. Like, I'm not getting angry at it. I'm just curious as to why they actually changed it. Now, one thing that's actually changed quite a bit from the manga is that in the manga, when they finally reach the village, when Senku and Kokoka finally reach the village, we get here a scene right here where you can clearly see Senku actually crossing the bridge. Now, in the anime, he never actually does that. It's just staying out in the boundaries. And at first, when I first was like trying to watch the scenes and trying to pinpoint where Senku's location was, at first I thought it's like, okay, he only crossed one part of the bridge to like that No, actually, he never crosses the bridge. He never crosses the bridge, because I thought he was only crossing that bridge. But then when I saw, like, okay, no, that's the village. No, in the okay. So like in the anime, he never crosses the bridge. It's like staying on the boundaries before Kiron and Giron actually come in, and it's actually okay. Stay out of the boundaries, and I feel like that's kind of like that was that was kind of like a change that I'm still on the fence about, because on one hand it kind of gives two sides to Kokoku's character, in that okay, in the anime she's like, okay, she's going to follow some of the rules, she's going to break others, but she's going to follow some of the rules, whereas in the manga she's kind of like more of the rebel, because she's like, I don't care about any of the rules. If this guy saved my life, I'm going to invite him into my village, I'm going to be a rebel. So it's interesting to see how the two different mediums interpret a character's actions, yet still keeping true to that character itself, in the sense that yes, Kukaku is a rebel, but she's still going to follow some of the rules because it's her village. Whereas it's like or you get like, okay, this character is going to follow no rules. She's going to be like a total rebel against her family and just being like her individual self. So it's kind of interesting that we actually got those two different sides of perspective in the two different mediums that were presented for Dr. Stone. Now, I think that was actually disappointed in the anime, that they could have so easily kept in, is this part right here, where we have the diagram of all the people that are in the village, and they so easily could have included that by just having, because they had scenes where they had where they had the camera just panning around, just showing all the different, just showing various individual characters, and we could have just had captions like, okay, this character's called this character's called that, this character's called this, and this character's called something like that, so that they didn't have to include all of that, and it's just going to make it even more frustrating for the anime only watchers when we get to this part right here with Soyas, or No Nameless Guy as he's known here, because in the manga, when he first actually got his first big break, which was recently in the most recent arc, the guys at Control Chaos, they were like confused. They were like, oh, this guy came out of nowhere, and they just gave so much bash to Dr. Stone that we all had to jump in and say, actually, there is a point in the manga when Senku first enters the village where you actually see him and he has no name. And they were like, just they had to eat the slice of humble pie. Then that would be like, okay, we screwed up here, and we're going to admit that we screwed up. And it was just so delicious to see them just being like, no way. How they had all that planned out way back from this point early on in the series. So yeah, it would have been nice to actually just have those captions, like, okay, you go around. You don't even have to include like, okay, one shot for each of the characters. You could have just had five characters in one shot, and just had their little capture boxes. And with the nameless guy, you could have just had question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Like, you don't actually know what his name. They don't actually know what his name is, or something like that. But again, it's not a really big loss. It will just, well, actually, it kind of is a big loss, because we kind of have to, like, in the anime, just like keep tabs of like, okay, who is this character? Who is that character? Whereas in the manga, you could just look them up. It's like, oh, they're that character. So yeah, it's kind of disappointing that they actually left it out, and I have no idea why they decided to just leave it out, and no idea how they could have just been like, okay, we can't include this chart right here, so we have to get creative here. So yeah, it's kind of a disappointing that they didn't include that, but at the same time, I'm not really going to lose sleep over it. And now we get to talk about Kieron and Giron, the two latest additions in the anime, where we have Giron, who has one of his little observations cutting out, again showing that even though they're primitive natured people, they still have some sort of intelligence with them. So like, they're not all dumb primates that don't even know how to take care of themselves. Where he goes, so there are humans outside there besides us. I've never seen one before. Again showing that, again giving an insight to how isolated the village is, how no one goes out far from the boundaries, and to see someone else that's not part of the village actually in front of you, that's kind of fascinating to them. It's like, okay, what is this guy all about, and what is this big deal? Again, showing like Giron's Giron's clear curiosity about the outside world, and how much he would probably want to go out there and explore and find out all different possibilities and situations, and how fascinating it could be for him himself. And now we get on to my second favourite character in the entire series, Chrome. Yes, Chrome is my second favourite character after a certain particular character that we will be talking about later on in this episode of talking about what's the difference between the anime and the manga. So yeah, Chrome is my second favourite character, and in case you want to know where Senku and Kukaku stand on my charts, there in my top 5, it's like at the moment we have Chrome is number 2, Kukaku is number 4, and Senku is number 5. Now, the two other spots that take up the top 5, you're just going to have to wait and see who those characters are. And also, if you want to my opinions on Giron and Kiron, they're alright. They're not in my top 10, but they're still alright characters. I love like the little dynamic that goes on between them, how Giron is like the more childlike. It's kind of like the dynamic that I have between me and my older brother. How I'm like the more childlike, wondrous person, and he's like more of like the stiff, stern person. Yet can still be like that. Like he wants to express emotions, but he's too prideful to. It's kind of like the dynamic we have. Me and one of my brothers have like that dynamic we have, but we still get along. We still get along fairly well in the same way that Kiron and Giron get along very well. But anyway, continuing on, going back to Crone in the anime, the Charcoal Lin line that he has is changed to coal suds. Now I don't know whether charcoal lin is the same as coal suds, but I found like that's an interesting observation to actually just cut out to actually change a piece of a section of scientific know-how that Crone has to something else. Again, whether or not they are one and the same, that is something that I can't figure out, because I'm not a scientist in any way, in any stretch of the imagination. But I'm pretty sure that. I'm pretty sure that it is supposed to be one and the same, because why else would they change something like that when it's an important and real scientific thing? So again, it might be one and the same. I just don't know. Now, another slight alteration from the manga to the anime is that when Giron's worrying about the sorcery showdown, that's actually moved around to when after they move away from the village, and it's like Crone goes, things could get hairy for the villagers if we fight here. Well, and we can't have that. Let's pick a different location. And then we get like Giron's like worried face, like, what are they gonna do? What are they gonna do? What sorcery are they gonna do? Are they gonna shoot lightning? Are they gonna kill us? Are we all gonna die here? So yeah, again, that's something that's not really a bad change. It's just a little observation that I have, how they can sort of like change things around to suit their narrative, but also to make the narrative better and make a little bit more sense, and actually make it even more funny in that regard. Again, they're not really cutting things out. They're just swapping it around, changing it to make it flow a little bit more natural for the purposes of the anime, and also as well they include. At first I thought they weren't going to include the part here where Crone actually goes to get his tools, but no, what they actually do is that they actually they actually add the two bits right here, so they actually mold them both together, so that we can still have the bit where Crone goes to get his tools, and still have this part here where they're all observing like. So that's why he changed the battlefield, to go and get his tools. So again, not cutting things out, just like combining bits together for the purposes of making the narrative flow a little bit better, and also they might want to like draw out a few little dramatic moments to actually tug at the audience's heartstrings. So again, I'm not really mad that they actually combined it together. It's just one of those little tidbits that you have to keep track of and think like, okay, what's the difference here? It's like, okay, so they've actually just combined these bits together. Now, one thing that is actually cut out completely is the side story, and again, it's a side story, so it's not really important. It's not. I don't feel they felt like it was really important in the grand scheme of things, and I feel like it would have probably just ate at some room time if they actually did include it. But again, it's the side story. What is it? Yeah, the side story, the arithmetic battle, and again, it wasn't really needed in the story, because it was pretty much just stated right here that that Science Storehouse and Chrome were crying after Kukaku goes, I have a feeling that Senku is even more unmatched there, and it's just like Chrome conceals defeat right there and then, and Senku's like, okay, I've won, I get your science house. So again, I feel like that's the only reason why they didn't include it, because they probably felt like, not only because it was a side story, but it was probably redundant when it actually says Science House and Chrome acquired. But let's talk about it anyway, because it's actually a really funny thing that goes on here. It's like the most insane arithmetic battle ever, because you have here like Chrome going, you ready? Because I've got some bad math for you. Time for an arithmetic battle. And he just shoots out a beam of energy that has 8 times 8 or 8 times 8 on it. Again, making like an anime battle with arithmetic, like just making just like the insane over the top thing. Like, I'm gonna stomp you at maths. Okay, what is 8 times 8? So something like that. And then you have Kukaku and Senku just like being nonchalant about it, just like 64. And then you have just like that roller like there from Crow, just like getting all the lights. Sometimes like, oh my god, this guy is it's just so much more awesome as me. But then he just doesn't even give up. He's like, crude, sure, Senku got it. Even you, Kukaku. And I love that, like, Kukaku, this primitive girl who has no concept of science, is easily able to just be like, oh yeah, 8 times 8 is 64. And I just love that. And then Kukaku's like, well, when watching a school of fish, it's easy way to estimate how many are there, and it's like I love that, how they've even able to like get some level of intelligence based on their observations around. Like Kukaku is this like tomboyish girl who's probably gone out and caught a lot of fish. It's like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so 8 plus these 8. Okay, so 8 more than 8 is 16. So like she's been able to get all of that over the years of her just like going out and catching fish. I just love that about her. And then we have Chrome just like even more just like absolutely insane over the top. And again, this is probably one of the reasons why they didn't include this, because this, even for Dr. Stone, this is a bit over the top, and this is a bit insane. But yeah, we're still going to talk about it when Chrome goes, oh yeah, fine, take this, and he just has lightning shooting, like just basically making like a spirit bomb, or like Primarina's signature move in Pokemon, like her signature C move, where they make that big water bomb, and this is exactly what Chrome does, and he's like 86 times 87, and it's like, how on earth could anyone know that? And then Senku's just like 7,221, and you just see like Crow just going, oh my god, he actually figured it out, and then Senku goes on to say, listen Chrome, what you're trying to show off is a quick solve method, right? Multiply the other places, 8 bums up to 9, then just multiply, answer 7221. Add up the digits in the one place to get 10. This trick only works when the 10 places have the same digit though. And then you have Kieran going, what possible purpose could this so-called arithmetic serve in battle? And Chrome answers, you could use it for analysing power levels, and Kukaku's like, could be useful for analysing fighters in team bouts. Throwing modesty to the wind, I'd say my power level is about 1,000. Kieran's is 500. Giron's is 100. Chrome is 5, and then Chrome's like, I'm not that weak though, and Senku is 3. Without my science for sure. So again, this could have been actually included as a way to like, as a way for them to like sort of like the power scaling level where we actually get to the tournament that's coming up with the village people in probably, I'd say, the next dozen half a dozen episodes. So that probably like around episode 16, that's probably when we're gonna be getting right into the tournament with the villagers. But anyway, Kieran goes on to say perhaps, but don't underestimate. And then Kokaka goes, apologise if you wish, we could all spar right here and now. And Crow's like, what is this, some impossible game? And Giron's like, here, I've got a great idea. How about the four of us team up? Even the mighty Kokoku won't stand a chance. That's not cowardly at all. And then that's when Kokoku just has enough, and she's like, just like beats them all to a pulp and then just walks off, and that's where the side chapter ends. And I apologise just then, that was my phone going off, but again, I was on a roll there, so I just wanted to keep on going. So I apologise for that. That was my phone. I apologise for that, guys. But anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of the side chapter. I think that even though it could have been like an important thing to include, I feel like they thought like, yeah, this is quite a bit over the top even for us, and we could pretty much just make half an episode out of just this side chapter alone, but we've got to keep on moving along to get to what's important in the series. Now, the thing I love that they did here was right here when Crone is talking about how much he's actually collected over the years. In the anime, he has a really change of tone of voice. He goes, "Yeah, take a look, Senku. Bad, ain't it? Sure you beat me at science and maths and wasn't in top form today, but my collection here, it can't be beat." Again, I just love how they include that little shift of tone in Crone's voice, again showing that even though he's on Senku's side at this point, he's kind of like a bit bitter. It's like, you beat me up science and maths. I'm good as well. At least I've got a rock collection that's better than yours. I love that. I just love that, and I love that the actor was able to include just that little bit in and just give Crone that tad bit more flavour to his character. Now, the final 2 bits I want to talk about with Chapter 7 is not Chapter 7, Episode 7 is when Crone is right here when Senku's telling Crone about what happened 3,700 years ago, right after mankind was turned into petrification. I apologise about what was going on there with my voice then. But anyway, guys, the thing that I want to talk about here is not necessarily what's in the manga, it's actually what's in the anime, and it's the soundtrack. I really want to find the name. I really want to find out what the name of this soundtrack actually is when Crone is actually hearing the story about the world before the petrification. This was in the one of the first trailers for Dr. Stone. In fact, it was in both trailers, like the first and second trailer. That just like that wondrous soundtrack, and I really want to know what is the name of that soundtrack. I'll probably find out. At some point, but I really want to know now because I really want that soundtrack. And another thing that's actually added in is just right here right here. After Crone makes his declaration like Rui's sickness is going down, Senku actually tells him what they're actually going to make in the anime. It's the antibiotics, and yeah, that's everything from episode 7. So yeah, that was quite a bit to actually get through, and I feel like it's only going to get worse. Right, so moving on to episode 8, which again, this is the episode that has my favourite character make their appearance. I think you all probably know who it is by now. But yeah, before we get to that, we have little bits here where we have quite a little bit of the conversations actually cut out of of when the villagers are actually talking about Senku actually being this outsider that's actually coming to the village, especially here with Magna and Mantle. This actually moved to later on, and again, I feel like this was actually moved to like just showcase how much of a threat Magma is and how much of an obstacle he's actually going to have to become overcome by Senku in order to get to actually solving the cure of Rui's sickness. So again, I feel like that's the only reason why they changed it to like actually make him feel like, okay, this guy is very imposing. We have to watch out for this guy. And another thing that's actually changed is that in in the manga here, we have Kukaku's father going, my foolish daughter, does she want to be disowned? Whereas in the anime, it's made it very explicit that he is actually disowned. He is actually disowned her, and that's and I feel like that's actually an interesting interesting change that's actually put through, again, showing how just like that one little change can actually change someone's perspective on a character just by those single words of actually them saying like she is. Even though I've disowned her, she's still breaking the rules. Does she want to be disowned? She's always breaking the rules. I feel like just by having that like one little change actually gives different insights into the characters and whether or not you'll feel if you'll like them more or you'll like them less. Now, another thing that's actually cool is this part right here where Senku actually compares Kukaku and Chrome to Taiju and Yusumiya, where he goes, "You two remind me of another blockhead who jumps before looking." Oh no, okay, he's only comparing them to Taiju. And I feel like the only reason why they didn't include that is because it was a bit too cartoony, and it wasn't really something that was really something that probably at this point Senku probably wouldn't say based on what's actually happened and how Taiju actually brought him back. I mean, yes, Taiju is still a blockhead, but I feel like Senku at this point has a little bit more respect for Taiju. I mean, he had respect for him before; he was his best friend, but at the same time, he probably still thought of him as like this blockhead. And then after Senku actually was brought back by them, he's like, okay, I see that you're not as much of a blockhead as I initially thought. So I feel like that's probably the reason why they actually didn't include that, is because I feel like they probably thought, well, Senku kind of respects Taiju more now, so I feel like it would have been out of character for him to actually say something like that. So maybe that's probably the reason why they actually didn't include it. Now, this is the point I was talking about when the anime actually made a mistake. In the anime itself, they say that the year is 5,379, whereas in the manga the year is actually supposed to be 5,739, and I actually had to go back to episode 1 to actually figure out, did they actually say that in episode 1? And no, in episode 1 they actually make it state that the year was 5,739, so maybe that's probably a mistranslation on the subtitles parts, and they'll probably have to go back. I'm like, okay, it was actually this. And what makes it even more worse is that they actually do say 3,700 years, where if it was actually supposed to be the year 5,379, it would be 3,300 years. But again, I feel like that's probably a mistake on the subtitles parts, not really necessarily what Senku actually said. I feel like they probably were just strapped for time and probably didn't think to actually go back and double check to find out exactly what the year actually is. So maybe that's probably the reason why that mistake was made. And I'm pretty sure that somebody has actually already pointed this out to the subtitlers, and thought like, okay, we need to actually inform them, like, no, the actual year is 5,739. Now, one thing that's actually left out of the manga is that Kukaku's not as over the top when she's actually belating Senku and Chrome, which is this little image right here. Again, I feel like that was probably cut out because I feel like they probably thought that is way too over the top. It's a funny image, but it's way too over the top for us to actually even make it seem like, okay, this is supposed to be a little bit more grounded in reality, even though there are things here that you might question, like, can this actually be done? I feel like if they actually include that would have just taken you out of the immersion of the actual anime itself, and being like, okay, yeah, this is a little bit over the top, and I feel like she is being a little bit more bitchy in this moment in time. So that's something that I feel like was appropriate to actually leave out, because it's like, yeah, that was kind of like a really, like, okay, yeah, that's a bit too over the top. And also another thing that's actually added in its place is them actually just discussing, like, why they can't just get manpower from the the village, and Kuko's saying like, well, because you're sorcerers, people don't trust you, or anything, and you feel like, okay, best stay away from these guys. So again, that was a really nice moment to actually get us prepared for what is actually about to come, and the allies that they're actually going to get, including one that appears right now, who is my favourite character in the entire series, Suika. Suika is this little watermelon girl. There she is right there, and she's 9 years old. And the reason, and I'm actually gonna talk about briefly about why she is my favorite character. I'm probably gonna do a entire video on just her character alone at some point, because again, she is my favorite character. But I'm gonna just briefly mention why she is right now is because, despite her being only 9 years old, she is just such an incredible help to the series. Like, she is just this stealthy little girl that can actually be like, okay, Suika, we need you to go and see like what those people actually are, and then come back to us, and then we can actually formulate. She's basically like the starting gun to a lot of the plans that Senku actually does to overcome the situations at hand. Like, for example, recently in the manga, they've been like, okay, Suika, we need you to go and get this lab that we've created, bring it back to us, and then we can formulate a plan to actually get out of this situation. So again, that is just like one of the main reasons why I love Suika's character so much, is that yes, she is a little bit goofy, but at the same time she is very intelligent for her age, very brave for her age. Yet yes, she is possibly one of the bravest characters in the entire series, for the fact that she went into this enemy camp pretty much by herself, overcame these enemies by herself to actually get this really valuable piece of equipment that can actually help Senku formulate his plans to actually get them out of the situation. And even Senku, after all of this, is like, not bad, kid. And even one of the more recently revived characters who was like, I'm not bringing her on this journey. She is a little kid. It'll be too dangerous. For her. Even after all of that, he admitted that he was wrong to doubt her abilities, and he said, you are a valuable asset to the kingdom of science. So again, showing how much of her actions, despite how small and how she even doubts herself at the beginning, how she just builds in confidence of just her desire to just want to help people. And that's another thing, right? She's just such a helpful person, and can do things pretty much that the other characters cannot do, because of just how small she is, and how her ability comes really in handy, as we'll see coming up in the other parts of the episode, because I've got a point here of one of her main ability that she has that I want to talk about as well. So yeah, that is one of the reasons why Suika is my favourite character. She's just such a helpful little girl, and despite the fact that she is only 9 years old, she's pretty intelligent for her age, and she's incredibly stealthy. She's like the most stealthiest person ever. She even outranks Giron in Senku's eyes. I want you to put that in perspective. Giron, who's one of the guards of the actual village, along with his brother, and is sort of like seen as like one of the strongest. Is not seen as one of the strongest, but seen as one of the people who's like, okay, he's one of our fighters that we have. Even Suika outranks him in Senku's eyes, just for how much of intelligence in terms of her observation, how she can look at things and think like, oh, okay, I know exactly what this is, I know exactly what they need, and just be like, oh, okay, I can go around and just scout around and find out what people are actually talking about and what they actually want, and how we can recruit them to our side. So something like that. So again, that's why I love her character so much. She's goofy, but at the same time really intelligent and really brave as well. As I'll talk about right here. Like, okay, so in the anime, Magma's conversation with Manto is actually changed to the point where Suika is in this watermelon field. Magma's got an axe right there, and he's talking about, yeah, I will not let some outsider have my place. Ruri will be mine. And even though she's incredibly scared, just the fact that she's there in Magma's presence, in the eye, it just shows just how incredibly brave she is. Like, she knows that at any point he could just actually cut her down, but she needs to do this for Senku because she wants to be helpful. That's her main drive. She just wants to be helpful to people, and I think she's proven that a lot of times. And one of the disappointing things is that a lot of people don't acknowledge her as a main character, even though she's had a lot more screen time than a lot of other characters that are considered main characters, quote unquote. Perfect example of this is Yusuvia. Like, Yusuvia was considered like a main character, but Suika's had way more screen time and had way more accomplishments than Yusuvia. And even Sukasu, Sukasu gets main character status despite being the main villain, and despite him not having as much screen time as Suika. So I feel like Suika needs to be acknowledged as a main character, not just because she's my favourite character, but also because without her, some of the stuff, basically without her, they wouldn't have been able to do the things that they're doing now in the manga. That's just a general fact. That is a general fact. It's right there. Without Suika, they would still be trying to figure out a plan of how to get the science lab from this enemy base right now in the manga. So without her, they would have still been stuck. On Plan A. But with her, they were able to get it back, and they were able to, like, okay, now that we've got it back, we need to figure out what we need to do in order to get these in order to get our guys back, basically. So yeah, without her and her observation and her stealthiness, they would have been able, I don't think they would have been able to achieve half the stuff that they've been able to do at this moment in time. Especially a moment that happens in episode 9. Now, one thing that we don't actually get is this part right here, where we have Senku observing the fact that Suika was actually able to get iron sand, and also, in case you're wondering, Suika actually does mean watermelon in Japanese, and also I should go along with the fact that Giron means gold in Japanese, and Kiron means gold in Japanese, and Giron means silver in Japanese. Hence why they're named like that, because gold is more valuable than silver, and the fact that Giron is actually older than Kiron is actually older than Giron. I'm sorry, I'm getting the names mixed up here. But yeah, Kiron means gold and Giron means silver. So yeah, that's a little observation I wanted to bring up here. That was actually mentioned in the manga. So again, I feel like the only reason they called her Suika was because of the watermelon, on her head. Now that's a really important thing, but I'm not going to spoil that until we actually get into I believe it's episode 10 when that's actually going to be brought up. But anyway, moving on. Yeah, we don't get Senku's reaction to Suika finding the iron sand, which I feel like it's an important point. It's an important point to have, because it's showing, like, okay, so this little girl has actually been able to find iron sand quicker than we've been able to do. So yeah, maybe she'll be actually of value to us. And also, one thing that they actually cut out, well, they don't necessarily cut it out. It's just like the subtitles don't actually include it, because you can clearly hear the Japanese voice actress saying it like how it is in the manga, which is Suika talking in the third person when she goes, but Suika just wants to help. Suika always wears this thing, so Suika can't really help much, even when Suika grows up someday. And another thing that they cut out is like the little backstory of Suika, showing how she's had this mask for, I imagine all her life, and she just doesn't feel like she is of any use to someone. And the fact that Senku is actually giving her a chance to be someone of value, and to actually be someone that's actually trusting of her abilities, that probably helps to boost up her confidence and make her a little bit more braver, and make her think like, okay, I am valued. Senku values me, even if it is just for my abilities and how much of help I can be of use to him. It's something. It's just someone just praising them for being just who they are and what their abilities are, and I feel like that's what boosts up Suika's confidence in order to actually grow better as a character and as a person. Now, another thing that's added in the anime, which they really didn't need to, is Kokoku actually telling Senku that Chrome has a crush on Ruri, and whereas in the manga it's like, here it's like Senku Sensei, and you have Chrome, a line, big sister Rui, and then Senku's like, oh, okay, I see how it is. So again, we probably could have figured it out ourselves, and they didn't really need to include that line. And also another thing that's actually cut out of the anime is this part. Is this part right here where we have another conversation with Giron and Kiron, which I feel like, yeah, that was kind of not really needed. Not really needed as such in the anime, because I feel like it would have probably just been a little bit more redundant when they could have just and again, it's probably something that they just needed to cut. They needed to cut something, kind of like, okay, well, they're having another confrontation trying to get into the village, and it's kind of seems redundant at this point, and it cuts out the line. But once we cook up a cure, they'll have no choice but to let us in. So let's get started. And I feel like they would have just been like I feel like they were probably just thinking the animators like, okay, this is something that we could include, but it'll probably feel a little bit of retreading in that regard. Now, one more thing that's actually cool is actually Kiron actually talking about Suika helping them out of kindness, again showing like how observant the characters are, and how they sort of like, even though they probably don't interact as much, the fact that they know each other longer than we've known them, that's kind of like an interesting little tidbit that they could have pretty much included in that scene when Kiron and Giron were arguing over whether they should go and help the Kingdom of Science or not. But also one thing that's actually changed around is that this part right here where Senku and Chrome are like, to get more labour, all we need is some sciencey bait. That's actually changed to before Suika actually goes off and does her little investigation. And I feel like, yeah, that's probably for the best, just to make it flow a little bit more natural into from one scene to the other. Now another thing that's actually cut out as well is the fact that after Senku and Chrome say, you've got this, great detective Suika, so we're counting on you for that, great detective Suika. And we have like Suika dressed up as like a detective, probably a reference to Sherlock Holmes as well. But you see right here, you can see right here in the anime, she doesn't actually blush. Now I feel like the blushing of Suika is actually important, because it's like showing like, oh my god, they're actually counting on me. Someone for once is actually relying on my ability to actually get some information, and actually to do a task just for me specifically from them. They actually need my help, and they actually want my help. And I feel like the blushing is just to show like just how she's just so happy that someone is actually just putting faith in her for once. And that's the only reason why I feel like they could have really just included it. They could have really just included oh, she's blushing, she's so cute, because she's actually wanted to be helpful. They actually need her abilities to actually get their task done, and actually get something out of the villagers. Now when Suika is actually rolling in the anime, they have like this little retro like dun 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 dun, sort of like from an old video game a sound of rolling, like dun 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 dun, something like that. And I really like that nice little retro touch to like when she's moving around in her watermelon. Now there's only two more bits that I want to talk about with episode 8, and that's the fact that the manga here, when Suika's actually going around the village to actually find out like what all the people actually want, it's more showing rather than telling, whereas in the anime they actually just have the conversations actually saying out loud, where it could have just been an easy simple montage of like just Suika going and just hearing the voices, but we don't actually hear what they're actually saying, and it's just like Suika's thoughts of like, okay, like Garnet, Ruby and Sapphire, okay, they want boyfriends, so she just imagines like hearts, and then Ganon, I think that's how you pronounce his name. Let's see. gone in actually wants something different from fish. He could have had like a little thought bubble from Suika going, okay, no fish. That's something that he doesn't want to. And again, we get like this little scene of like just Kukaku, Chrome, and Senku actually just going and doing some maintenance to the furnace, but. Again, I feel like they cut that out because I don't feel like Senku at this point has any notion of like getting a pen or something, like just scribble down notes. I feel like that's the only reason why they didn't include that in the anime. And also the last bit I want to talk about is when Senku, yeah, right here, when Senku has made the ramen, he's made the ramen dish for everyone, and he's like, keep in mind, this primitive gourmet meal is probably about 10 billion times worse than the stuff produced by those classic dedicated chefs, and they're just like, well, I don't care as long as it tastes good and something. So that's a little bit that's a little more observation from Senku's part. It's like, okay, even though this is a primitive gourmet meal, it's still probably going to taste bad even for people like you, but of course it isn't, because they've just had the same thing time and time again. Just anything different is yummy to them, as it says right here with Chroma, just like its eyes just booming with like just flavour, even though to Senku is someone who knows all about different flavours. It's like, yeah, this is bitter, this is absolutely disgusting, but to them it's like a food from the gods. And also something else as well that really showcases Suika's talents. I know I've been just fanboying over Suika, just like, she is my favourite character, so I'm allowed that privilege. It's just like her talent's like just actually playing music. That's actually a talent in of itself, because it's hard. I know for myself, because I used to play the clarinet. I know how hard it is just to play just one instrument, and the fact that she's 9 years old and just like playing that music, and it's really something that's really captivating. That's pretty impressive on her part. But anyway, that's episode 8 out of the way. So let's move right on to episode 9. Now, at the start of episode 9, we actually get a moment where we see Ashigiri, I believe that's how you pronounce his name, just walking around, and he actually hears Suika's music in the distance, and he actually observes everything. So again, I feel like that was probably just put in to make it seem like, for the anime, it's like, okay, we've got to make sure that this guy doesn't come out of nowhere, and we just got to actually make it like, okay, we need a moment, just a little tiny moment, nothing big, just a little moment to see, like, okay, how he actually gets down to the finish. Because again, he does come out of nowhere in the manga, so I feel like that was just a moment that they just felt like it needed to be added in to make it seem like he doesn't come out of nowhere. But again, it does kind of like ruin the reveal of him when he actually does come out, when he actually does make his appearance. And also, one other thing that's changed around is that this point right here, it's actually included till after after the people have actually been eating the ramen, and they're like, shall we go, Chief? Go where? To eat, I mean, not a chance. And Rui's like, Kokoku, just what are you up to with that outsider you've brought in? And again, I feel like that was only changed around because it just added, it just felt more natural for the anime itself, for the type of style that they're trying to do. Again, they're not cutting things out; they're just sort of like moving them around to just make it feel more natural for them as an anime rather than as a manga. Now, one thing that's actually changed as well, which is quite significant change, is when Chrome is actually trying to get Giron and Kiron to actually try the ramen, and Kiron's like, Centaries have no business accepting food in the first place. Rules are rules. You actually have Kokoku saying the line, "Oh, then why do you have that spear? Food is unacceptable, but treasures are just fine." And Kieran's like, she's got you there. In the anime itself, it's actually Crone that says that line, and again, it makes more sense for Crone to actually say that, seeing as how he is actually there in their presence rather than Kokoku. If it was Kokoku there. So if it was Kokoku that actually say to them, "Hey, you've got to try this ramen out," then that would make more sense for Kokoku to actually be there. But since Chrome was there, it only felt more natural for Chrome to actually say that and to actually bring that up. So yeah, that's something that's not really necessarily a major change, but it's a significant change, and it's a change that the anime actually does get right, and it does actually make sense on their part. Now, another thing that's left out is when they're actually confronting Gen right here. We have Giron saying it's easy to feel strong and cool when fighting by Kokoku's side. Again, showing how Giron actually has respect for the people that actually are stronger than him, and it's like, even though he acts a little bit goofy at times, it's like he knows just where he stands on his level of power and abilities. It's like, okay, Kukoku is way stronger than me, and I'll be the first to admit that. So it is nice to actually have. It is actually nice when she's actually on our side, and it actually makes me feel more relaxed to know like I have actually got allies rallying around me, and makes me feel much more confident as a person and as a fighter. So that's a nice little observation that I feel like they could have actually included, because again, there was no reason to create it out, and they could have just actually added it in at just a little point to just actually get more of Giron's characterization out there. Now, one thing that I feel like could have actually been in, just to open up the world a little bit more, is just the background a little bit here, right here, where we have Giron actually eating Gen's ramen, and then we have Kiron just like beating him over the head, saying to say like, "How dare you disobey the rules?" So again, it's a little moment that again, really, when you think about it, it's not really necessarily the focus. So I feel like that's why they actually put it out. But again, it's just nice to actually have the world being opened up, where we have actual moments in the background just appearing, and just makes you think like, okay, what's going on back there, and it just makes you feel like much more part of the world, where you can actually spot things that are happening in the background. Now, another change is that when Senku is talking to Gen, also this part right here where I am required, that's actually moved forward to this part right here, after they've actually made the molten lava and the metal and everything. That's actually moved a little bit forward, and again, it's not really a big change. It's just something that I noticed personally myself. But anyway, a line that's changed is when Gen says, "I'm just the world's smoothest talker." In the anime, he says he's a shallow man, and I feel like shallow man is not as impactful as smoothest talker, because that's part of Gen's character, is that he has a silver tongue and he has a way of manipulating people with words. So to call him the smoothest talker actually makes a lot more sense than the world's shallowest man. But one thing the anime does capture really well is this part right here with Gen, like just the white, just like the white face, like just the white shocked face when Senku says, "I'm gonna make a power plant." He's like, "What? You can't be serious. You can't be serious." And again, I just love it when the animes can just capture moments like that, when you just see like just all the white shockness out of the face. Like, is he absolutely serious with this? So yeah, that's something that I've got to give credit where credit's due. And another part that I just absolutely am thankful that the anime just actually captured perfectly is coming up right at the end of the episode, and right at the end of this episode as well. Now, I only got a few more notes to talk about with episode 9. So we'll just quickly get through them. Let's see. Oh, actually, there's something else I want to talk about here. Is the fact, again, showing just how awesome Suika is. How when it's like, okay, we need liquor. Okay, oh, Suika's already got it. That's great. Thanks, Suika. Thanks for that. Just like showing how if it wasn't for Suika actually just going and getting the liquor, just like they wouldn't have been able to make the magnet that they're trying to make at this moment in time in the anime and the manga. So again, it's showing just how valuable Suika is as a character, even though she doesn't really say as much or something as grand as Senku does. Just those little actions just speak volumes for her character as well. But anyway, it was the moment right here when after they've made the powerful magnet, which again the anime captured splendidly. Yeah, it's this part right here when where again it's like, haha, this is insane science in this Spiral Store world, starting with nothing. You've really done it. In the anime, gets a little bit more a little bit more skeptical by saying like, you can't, how are you really going to do this in this stone world, Senku? And again, I feel like that's actually kind of a moot point at this point, because he's seen just how brilliant Senku is. Just basically make a magnet out of sticks and stones, almost figuratively in that sense. So I feel like him being skeptical in the anime is just a bit more of a moot point, because it's like he's seen it right there and then. So it's like, I think that is proof enough in that regard. So again, I don't know why they felt the need for again to be more skeptical. I just feel like they really needed to have that little bit more of an extra push. Okay, so 3 more things to talk about. One thing is right here is that we don't get the little chart, and I feel like again that was probably not included because it's a little bit cartoony even for Dr. Stone's part. But the one part I actually want to talk about is this part right here. Just like this absolutely stunning visual that when I first saw this, I was like, favorite manga panel of all time. Like that was no exaggeration. As soon as I saw that actually took my breath away. Just how visually appealing that was, and it really like opened my eyes to just how manga can be a form of art. And I feel like anyone who disagrees with that social, like, manga's not art, just have to show them that. And if you want even more proof, chapter 100 of this series, where they build a galleon, basically. Just that galleon alone, that just took my breath away. As well as this moment right here. This moment right here with Chrome and Senku. It's no wonder why I used that for the title card. That just like that moment of just pure artistry and beauty, and how beautiful that this industry can actually be. And the anime just captured that perfectly. It was basically this moment right here, but in colour, and it just captured it beautifully. I've said this time and time again to people that have just been reacting to it as well, like, this is beautiful. This is my favourite manga panel of all time, and it really just took my breath away. And I am saying this with 100% seriousness, that is no exaggeration, that this moment right here, I truly didn't see any moment like that, and I'm getting emotional just like talking about just how breathtaking that moment is. So yeah, I thank Dr. Stone for actually opening my eyes to like just how visually pleasing manga can be, rather than not just storytelling, as not just being a brilliant form of storytelling, but also being a brilliant visual piece of art right now. And again, favorite manga panel of all time. Now the final thing that was actually cool is the last little bit here, where you have the conversation between Senku and Gen. And Senku actually going through his flashback, and I feel like this will probably be included at the beginning of episode 10 as well. So that's probably the reason why I'm not including this. That will probably be a moment in episode 10 that will really be included, because I feel like just ending it on just the bright visual and this visual, and also these visuals right here, I feel like that's just all you need at that moment in time. So yeah, that was episodes 7, 8 and 9. Very good episodes. Little bits changed here and there, but nothing really major. Now I'm gonna go and edit this video, and then we're gonna be getting on to talking about the Promised Neverland, which will be coming up again, which will be coming in the same day. So yeah, for the time being, this will be Lashanuke signing off. Later, guys.